Hey guys, this is Gage with Sherpa. Today we're going to go over the roof rack install for the QDHD roof rack for the Jeep JLU. For the first part of the install, we're going to have to collect the following components. Grab the 2 rear brackets, grab the 2 middle brackets, and then collect the 2 front brackets. Some of the hardware we're going to need are 4 3/8 by 3.5 inch bolts, 4 3/8 by 3 inch bolts. We're also going to need 16 3/8 washers, 8 3/8 nylock nuts. Then coming over here, we're going to have 4 of these cage inserts. They're going to be longer, and then 4 of these shorter cage inserts. And then we will need 4 of the M8 countersunk bolts. The tools we'll need for this step are a T50 Torx bit, 5mm Allen key, a 9/16 wrench and socket, 5/8 drill, a 1/4 inch drill, and then the provided drill jigs. Make sure you have a drill, safety glasses, and we recommend some kind of respirator or face mask. First step, we're going to have to disassemble the truck, so we need to take off the freedom panels and the rear of the Jeep roof. We're going to start installing these brackets on the passenger side of the vehicle. So grab your front bracket for the passenger side, looks like this. We're also going to grab 2 small of these spacers. They will have a small S on there. We will need 2 of the 3/8 by 3 inch bolts with 4 3/8 washers and 2 3/8 nylock nuts. All right, we're going to grab our front bracket, and there's going to be a circle hole in the front and then another hole in the back. We will line up the bracket on top, center with those holes. Grab the smaller brace support, slide that guy in there. It'll be a nice tight fit. We'll grab our 3/8 bolt with a washer, and put that guy through, and then do the same steps on the rear. On the bottom of that, we're going to put our washer and nylock. Once these guys are started, go ahead and fully tighten them down. If you have a torque wrench, we recommend 17 foot-pounds on all of these. Okay, continuing down the passenger side, grab your passenger side middle mount. We're grabbing 2 more of these cage inserts. These are going to be the long ones. They will have a little L engraved on them. And then we need our longer 3/8 by 3.5 inch bolts with 4 washers and 2 nylock nuts. All right, similar to the front, we're going to align the holes on the bracket with the holes on the vehicle. We're going to be using this circle hole and then this one up front. So set them on top, and then grab your inserts, and then get them slid into the holes. And then grab a washer on your bolt and slide them through. Then we're going to grab our nylock washer, come underneath with the washer and the nut, and then get those threads started. Then we're going to go ahead and tighten these. You can tighten these guys until they bottom out, which is roughly about 17 foot-pounds if you want to grab a torque wrench. Moving to the back, we'll need our passenger rear bracket and our 2 M8 countersink bolts. On the back of this cage, there's this center piece that's plastic, and it's just clipped in. So just work your way around it, and it should pop right off. This will expose 2 bolt mounts on the inside. There we go. Set the rear bracket over the 2 threaded holes, and then grab your countersink and get that one started. Using your 5mm Allen, we're going to torque these guys down to 16 foot-pounds. All right, with the passenger side brackets installed, go ahead and grab all the driver's side specific brackets with hardware and repeat the steps on the driver's side of the vehicle. Okay guys, now that all the mounts are installed, go ahead and find your smaller crossbar. It's going to be a 43-inch section. The hardware you'll need is 4 1/4-20 socket buttons. These are going to be the 1-inch long ones, 4 3/4-inch long ones, 8 1/4-inch washers, and then 4 T-nuts. All right, you're going to grab a couple of your 1-inch socket buttons with washers. Then we're going to place this crossbar in between these braces, like so. Line them up with these outside slots, and then they are tapped so you can start threading the bolts in through these slots. Keep these guys loose and do this on both sides. Get a hand on the crossbar and pull it all the way up. Then we're going to slide the T-nuts through the top. Get 2 of them centered, and then I'm going to use one of our Allen keys to press these guys into place and align it with the holes on top. and then grab your 3/4 inch socket buttons with a washer, feed it to the top hole, and then get both of those guys started. All right, with those loosely installed, and tighten the 4 top ones first, and then come on the outside and tighten up the outside. All right, this next part's going to be optional, but here are the caps that we took off in the rear. We're going to cut out this section so that we can reinstall that over the rear brackets. Measurements on this guy are going to be 1/2 inch from this edge, mark there, 1/2 inch from this back edge, and then we're going to go 1/2 inch in and then connect the lines, and we're going to cut that whole section out. All right, once you're all finished, they should look something like this, and we'll go install them on the back of the Jeep. Okay, with all of our mounts installed, we're going to go ahead and put the rear and the front panels of the Jeep back together. Okay, now that we got the roof back on, we're going to start to drill our pilot holes through the fiberglass. You'll need your drill, your 1/4 inch bit, some glasses. We recommend some kind of safety mask or face covering, and then the smaller drill jig. And then we're going to cover the inside with a moving blanket just to catch some of that dust. All right, we're going to take our little drill jig and insert it in the center hole on the front bracket until it's flush. And then we're going to use that center 1/4 inch hole as a pilot hole. Then we're going to drill all the way through the rack. All right, with that front one drilled out, I'm going to move to the back. We're going to do the exact same procedure, drill jig in and then go ahead and drill. We're going to do this for the last 5 locations. After all of our pilot holes are drilled, we're going to go ahead and remove the front and the rear of the roof again. All right, with the roof panels now off again, grab the larger drill jig and then that same 1/4 inch drill bit. This jig is going to have a sign that says center of Jeep with an arrow pointing this way. So just make sure that's always facing the middle. We're going to insert the bottom stud into our pre-drilled hole, like so. Hold it down, and then we'll use our 1/4 inch drill bit. And we're going to drill through these 2 holes right here. Moving to the back, we're going to do the exact same thing. Insert it there, and then drill all these 2 holes. Repeat this same process for the 5 remaining locations. Just keep in mind the arrow needs to be pointing towards the center of the Jeep. Okay, after all the pilot holes are drilled into the roof, go ahead and step up to your 5/8 bit. We're going to go enlarge all the holes on the roof. All right, while we have the roof off the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and grab our sandwich plates. These section here are our top sandwich plates, and these are our bottom sandwich plates. Go ahead and do a quick once-over on these to make sure you have the correct ones. On the top, you should have an A, an AA on these little indents, 2 Bs, and then a C and a CC for the top, and then the same on the bottom. So you'll have an A, an AA, 2 Bs, and then a C and a CC. Make sure you collect all those. And then we're going to grab 6 of these gaskets, and then you'll need 12 5/16 countersink bolts. And then we're going to use our 3/16 Allen key for this install. Right, working from the front passenger side of the vehicle, we're going to grab our A plate, top sandwich plate, A plate, bottom sandwich plate, 1 of the gaskets, and then 2 of the countersink bolts. And we're going to go install those right now. A part to note on the install, these are in alphabetical order. So the A will always be towards the front of the vehicle, and then this little arrow in the corner on all brackets will always be pointing to the center middle of the vehicle. So we're on the passenger side of the vehicle, arrow right here. We're going to grab our gasket, install it in the bottom. Then we're going to put it in the holes we just drilled. And then we will grab our bottom sandwich plate. Again, we want that arrow pointed towards the center of the vehicle, so we're going to flip it upside down and install it underneath like so. Make them tight and then back off a turn on both. We want these to have a little bit of slop in there for finishing the install later. I'm gonna go install the rest of these on the Jeep. Here's a quick graphic to show you the correct orientation of all these brackets. So now with all the sandwich plates loosely installed on the roof, we're gonna do one final install and put the roof back on the Jeep. All right, now with the Jeep roof fully installed again, go ahead and grab this little alignment jig that we provide. And then we're gonna feed that through the top sandwich plate until it feeds through the sandwich plates, and then it'll lock in place once that bottom pin is through one of the brackets on the bottom. So then if you look at the bottom and that pin's going through the bracket, hold it down and then fully tighten it with your 3/16 Allen key. All right, now that that guy's fully tight, go ahead and pull that pin out and repeat the same process in the remaining mounting locations. Next step of the install, we're gonna grab some more components. We're gonna start with 6 of our QD knobs. Make sure these are in the extended position. They might be like this, just make sure they're extended. Then we need our 6 arch brackets. We're getting 4 tall ones, 2 short ones. We will need 3 of our 56-inch crossbars. And then for the hardware, we're gonna get 24 T-nuts, 24 silver, quarter 20 9/16 hex bolts, and then 24 washers, the silver ones. All right, next we're gonna loosely install 2 of the larger arch brackets. So grab one of your crossbars, then we'll start on this side. Set that there, and then we wanna grab 4 of the T-nuts. So we can slide these guys in place. I would just start with the outside 2, line the holes up on the T-nuts, and then grab 2 of your hex bolts with washers, and then get those threads started. Do the same thing on the other side. Drop those T-nuts in. Slide the bracket over the holes. And again, loosely install these hex bolts. Just for some rough alignment, measure 6 inches from the outside of the crossbar, then push both brackets in. Then again, leave these loose until we're installing them on the top of the truck. All right, I'm gonna grab another crossbar and then grab the small arch brackets. We're gonna do the same thing we did for the tall ones. Install these 6 inches from the side loose, and then do the same thing again with the tall ones with another crossbar. So we have 3 total assemblies before we put it on the truck. Okay, now that we got those all assembled, we're gonna go ahead and install those on the roof. Remember that these are tall, short, and tall, and this is how we're gonna orient them on the Jeep. So the tall brackets go to the front, the short brackets go in the middle, and then the other tall brackets go to the rear. Okay, we're gonna set these arch brackets on top of the sandwich plates. Notice there's a couple male notches on the sandwich plates and then some female ones on the arch brackets. Make sure when you put those on top that you align them with the notches, then do that on both sides. Next, we're gonna grab our QD knobs. We're gonna feed these up through the brackets on the bottom of the roof and then thread them into those arch brackets. These knobs have 2 different settings. There's an extended setting, and then you can click that and drop it down to its smaller setting. Since we have the roof on the vehicle, we need to do this in the extended setting and then make sure that's locked. Feed that up through the sandwich plate, and then just thread it into the arch bracket and go ahead and fully tighten that guy, like so. And then repeat this for all 6 locations in total. With all the crossbars up on the roof, these guys should still be loose. Now we're gonna take a tape measure from the arch bracket to the outside, and then center this on the roof. So make sure you're getting the same reveal on both sides of the Jeep. And do that for all 6 locations. Once that's centered, go ahead and tighten these guys down so they don't move anymore. Okay guys, next we're gonna prepare our side plates for install. So grab your 2 rear sections, your 2 front sections, 2 1/2-inch nylock nuts, 2 1/2-inch washers, 2 support pins, and then we will need 2 of these bushing brackets. These will be the ones with the 2 bushings pre-installed, 2 pin brackets with a smaller hole. Then we're gonna need 12 quarter 20 socket buttons, 1 inch long, and then we're gonna need 12 nylock nuts that are 1/4 inch, and then 24 washers. All right, we're gonna pre-install these pins on these bolt bushings. So grab one of your bolt bushings, one of your pins. We're gonna install it this way with the bulk of the pin facing out. Then we will grab one of our washers and our nylock nut. And then we will fully tighten this down and do this for both brackets. All right, next we're going to start with one of our front side plates. Grab one of those pin bushings that we just installed, and then grab some of the hardware and put a washer on the 1-inch nut or 1-inch bolt, push it through there, align the bracket like so, then washer and nut. All right, once that one's fully tightened and installed, we're going to repeat the process on the other front section. Just make sure that you mirror and reverse it so it lines up like so. All right, now that these guys are both installed, we're going to set those to the side. Now we're going to move on to our rear panels. So go ahead and grab that. And then we're going to grab our bushing brackets with the pre-installed bushings, and then line them up and install them the exact same way. All right guys, now that our side plates are pre-assembled, we're going to grab some 1-inch socket buttons, and then we're going to start with the rear panel of the side plate. This is the passenger side, and we're going to go set it up on the truck right now. All right, we want to align these 2 slotted holes with the 2 threaded holes on the crossbars. And then coming to the rear, we want to align this smaller slot with the 2 rectangle cutouts on the rear crossbar. Do the same thing and just get one of the 1/4 started. Try to center these front ones in the small slots, then we can go ahead and tighten these guys down fully. And then move back and tighten the rear as well. All right, now grab the front passenger section along with a couple more socket buttons. All right, to assemble the front, we need to slide this pin through the bushing right here. So line that up, some pressure. Now align the 2 small slots with the front crossbar that we installed. And then try to get that guy centered as well. And then we can fully tighten this down. All right, now move on to the driver's side and repeat the same steps. All right guys, now we need to assemble the front fairing. So grab 1 crossbar, the front fairing, 6 1/4 socket buttons. These are going to be 1/2 inch, 6 T-nuts, and 6 1/4 inch washers. An easy way to help assemble these is line up your crossbar with your fairing. Make sure edge to edge is perfect. And then we can drop in these T-nuts and try to align them with the holes on the fairing. Go ahead and place the fairing on top. And make sure you can see the T-nuts below. And then start to thread these guys through. All right, make sure that's flush with the crossbar, and then tighten all 6. All right, now to install this, we're just going to need 4 of our 1-inch 1/4 socket buttons, and then 4 washers. We like to put a rag on the other side if you're doing this alone so you don't scratch the roof. We're going to go and set it on the front of the Jeep. All right, now that the fairing's on, go ahead and fully tighten. We recommend starting with just a small gap on the bottom, and then you can adjust up or down depending on if you're experiencing any wind noise. All right guys, now that front fairing is installed, collect the remaining 6 crossbars you have, along with the remaining 1-inch socket buttons and some washers, and we're going to put these on the truck. The crossbars can go anywhere on the rack, but we recommend you put one right where the slot is, on the left side and on the right side. Other than that, they can go anywhere on the roof rack. Okay guys, that concludes the installation for the QDHD roof rack on the Jeep Rubicon JLU. If you have any questions, hit us up at sherpaec.com or give us a call.